KSFR Coffin Radio.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Coffin Radio. I'm Heartthrob Rob, and unfortunately today we are saying rest in peace to beautiful Bobby Eaton, one half of the Midnight Express. So sad, man, to see one of the greatest tag team wrestlers and one of the fucking unanimously known as one of the nicest guys in the wrestling industry. We're saying rest in peace, and it's so sad. Unfortunately, he passed away August 4th, 2021, just over a month after his wife had recently passed as well. Eaton died at the age of 62, just 10 days shy of his 63rd birthday. He had been hospitalized in July after suffering a fall. Sad turn of events here, man. Beautiful Bobby Eaton was born August 4th, 1958 in Huntsville, Alabama. He is most famous for his work in tag teams, especially as one half of the Midnight Express under the management of Jim Cornette. And he originally teamed with Dennis Condrey and later on Stan Lane. He actually broke in very early. He was actually part of the ring crew when he was 13 years old. And in May 1976, at the age of 17, Eaton made his debut in NWA Mid-America. Just 2 years later, Eaton teamed with Leap and Lanny Poffo, and together they won the NWA Mid-America Tag Team Championship. He went on to the CWA for 3 years after that, from 1980 to 1983. Soon after, Eaton joined Mid-South Wrestling under promoter Bill Watts. He became part of the Midnight Express. Eaton teamed with former rival Dennis Condrey under the management of Jim Cornette. And these guys were money, man. Everyone wanted to see the Midnight Express get their ass kicked, especially with Jim Cornette, as their mouthpiece. At first, the Express was booked in an angle with Mid-South Tag Team Champions Magnum T.A. and Mr. Wrestling 2. The highlight of the angle saw Eaton and Condrey tarring and feathering Magnum T.A. in the middle of the ring. They then went into this long-standing rivalry with the Rock and Roll Express, which ran from the 80s well into the 90s and spanned several wrestling promotions. The two teams feuded throughout 1984 in Mid-South Wrestling before the Midnight Express left the promotion. In 1985, Eaton, Condrey, and Cornette signed with Jim Crockett Promotions and were given national exposure on JCP's televised programs on TBS. In early 1987, Condrey left JCP for undisclosed reasons, and Sweet Stan Lane took his place as part of the Midnight Express. In May 1987, after teaming for only a few months, Eaton and Lane became champions when they won the NWA United States Tag Team title for the first time, a title they would win 3 times during their time together. They went into face, with Midnight Express, now as fan favorites, Midnight Express had to contend with a team that had thought to be disbanded forever, the original Midnight Express, which consisted of Condrey and Randy Rose, who joined JCP after a brief run in AWA. The duo was led by longtime Jim Cornette nemesis Paul E. Dangerous, better known as Paul Heyman, and in a storyline that saw them trying to prove the originals were better than the new version. After a WCW pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc 1990, the Midnight Express split up as Jim Cornette and Stan Lane left the Federation, while Eaton chose to remain in WCW. For the first time in almost a decade, there was no Midnight Express. At Super Brawl 1, Eaton defeated Arn Anderson to win the World Television Championship. Huge. Eaton's highest profile match as a singles wrestler came when he faced off against the World Heavyweight Champion Nature Boy Ric Flair at Clash of Champions 15 in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Eaton pinned Flair at the first fall, but ultimately lost to Flair 2 falls to 1. Then, his television championship was cut kind of short as he lost to some guy named Stunning Steve Austin. I don't know whatever became of him. Let's see if he ever turned out to be anything. Later in 1991, Paulie dangerously formed the faction, the Dangerous Alliance. Eaton joined the group when he assisted Rick Rude, with the storyline being that Dangerously had brought Rude to WCW in defeating Sting for the United States Championship. In joining the group, Eaton became allies with Rude, Larry Zbyszko, his 2 former rivals for the World Television Championship, Arn Anderson and Steve Austin. What a group. I don't think people talk about this group enough, but this might want to be one of the greater collection of wrestling people of all time. In there you have Bobby Eaton, Rick Rude, Larry Zbyszko, Arn Anderson, Steve Austin, with Paul Heyman as your fucking mouthpiece, as your manager. Well, that's a hell of a fucking team right there. The war between Dangerous Alliance and Sting and his friends escalated until it was decided to settle it in a double-ring War Games match known as Wrestle War 1992. Sting's team won when Sting forced Eaton to give up after Larry Zbyszko accidentally struck Eaton in the arm with a metal rod. Soon after the alliance disintegrated, Paulie dangerously left WCW. Eaton and Anderson continued to team after the alliance fell apart, now managed by Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton. That's a fucking good team right there, man. So they worked until WCW booker Bill Watts fired Eaton, cost-cutting measures. And then in 1993, he worked for Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And then, he later comes back to WCW later on in 1993. He teamed up with a young Chris Benoit in Benoit's first stint with WCW. Together, they were mainly used to help establish rising stars or give established teams opposition. Not too bad. When Bill Watts was, Eaton was later placed with British snob Lord Steven Regal. This is very well known, these vignettes. A series of vignettes followed in which Regal educated Eaton on how to be a man of class and sophistication. The Blue Bloods initially feuded with the Nasty Boys, and they also feuded with Harlem Heat over the World Tag Team Championship, but never took the belts. After his run with Regal, Eaton mainly wrestled on WCW's weekend show Saturday night. Now we get into, that was pretty much the end of his mainstream wrestling career, but he's, a mainstay on the indie wrestling promotions. But Eaton was often regarded as one of the nicest people in the wrestling business, even though he wrestled as a heel for a majority of his career. In his 1999 book, Have a Nice Day, Mick Foley praised Eaton as being one of the most underrated superstars in the business and its nicest, commenting, "It was damn near impossible to pay for anything with Bobby around, even though I confess to not trying that hard." Jim Cornette and Sean Waltman noted that Eaton would often regularly travel with an extra suitcase filled with toiletries, socks, and other oft-forgotten items that he would give to anyone who needed them. Steve Austin recalled in his 2001 biography, The Stone Cold Truth, Austin added that wrestling Eaton was considered a night off due to Eaton's in-ring offense that looked convincing but did not hurt his opponents. And, that's one of the greatest compliments you can have. All these people that talk about how great you are. Arn Anderson released a statement. Stone Cold Steve Austin released a statement. Jim Cornette obviously fucking is in love with you. Mick Foley's in love with you. Sean Waltman. Just the amount of love that he gets, the underratedness. Sad to see such a wrestling legend go. And I hope people realize that he's one of the best that ever did it. Most underrated, definitely. Those knees off the top rope, just everything they did as a tag team with the Midnight Express, absolutely incredible. So we say goodbye to this legend. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, one half of the Midnight Express. Everybody should do your homework. Go check it out. From the Dangerous Alliance to the Midnight Express, everything they've done, check it out. But if you like what you're watching, or let's talk about, if you like what you're watching, then hop in the coffin. Follow us on social media at Coffin Radio. Coffin is spelled with a K. And that's all for today.
ASMR Coffin Radio.